Hey everyone, Wowman here, and today on episode 2 of Zoo Design, using again Brookfield Zoo as a model for this discussion. We're going to focus on the big cats area, or the lion house area of the zoo. It's located in the northeast corner of the zoo. That's what we're kind of zooming in on here. And over the years, the general footprint of this area hasn't changed all that much, where you have the central lion house or lion barn, and it had 4 outside viewing areas connected to it as well. What we're going to cover today is kind of like what this area originally looked like, what it kind of looks like now, and some visions of what the zoo has planned for this area in the future. So let's take a closer look at the general layout of how the lion house originally was built in Brookfield Zoo. It was a standard rectangle lion house with 4 outside animal enclosures that the animals were allowed to go inside and outside at various times of the day or varying weather conditions. The general construction of this building was a standard brick and stone type building, and the interior, as you could see, was a hallway of lined cages where the animals would reside when they weren't in the outdoor enclosures. Let's talk a little bit now about the Fragile Kingdom. Back in the early 1990s, they built an extension onto the back of the original lion house, and they added in actually 2 kind of separate areas. One was called the Fragile Desert, the other was called the Fragile Rainforest, and these are basically more immersive type environments, or immersive type enclosures for the animals that geared more towards the conservation effort, and making the enclosures for the animals more realistic and better than just a caged type environment. Taking a look at the current satellite shot of this facility right now, I'm going to draw some lines on here. So the yellow lines that I added to this shot are the big cat area. So it's the original lion house and the original outdoor enclosures. The orange box I added to the top there is kind of a representation of what was added to this building for the Fragile Kingdom displays. Moving up to a couple of years ago, the zoo kind of rebranded this facility, and they changed it from the Fragile Desert to being called the Desert's Edge. And the other side they changed to be called the Clouded Leopard Rainforest. And I don't think they did much as far as changing the exhibits, except maybe cleaning them up and changing some of the educational type information within the exhibits. But basically, Desert's Edge is more geared towards being like a northern African desert type environment, and the Clouded Leopard Rainforest is more of an Asian rainforest type environment theme, I guess you could call it now. Within the building now, just to kind of give you an idea of how it's laid out, I looked around for a map or something more detailed for the inside of this building. Could not find anything online, but basically the orange area is the core of the original lion house. It's where the backstage or offstage area for the lions and tigers go that are typically displayed in the outside environments. And then the 2 red boxes in the top are the 2 different themed areas. They each have somewhat of a circular walkway through it, like you see the blue line that I drew. And the green blotches and the purple blotches within each of those sections are the different segmented exhibits for the animals that are on display in those environments. I really wanted to go into some more detail about what each of those inside exhibits look like and are themed like. And I'll touch on those a little bit in a minute or so, but basically in the thread attached to this video, I'll put a couple YouTube links for other people that did kind of video tours of these enclosures, just so you could see from a theming standpoint what they look like in case you do want to try to recreate them later on in the Planet Zoo game. While the animals are switched out, I'm assuming over time within these different exhibits, I'm just going to give you kind of a quick list and picture of what animals currently are on display in this big cat lion house building. So outside we got the big cats. We have the African lion, the Amur leopard, the Amur tiger, and the snow leopard. These are typically only on display outside, and there is no inside viewing for these large cats anymore. And moving into the inside enclosures, we'll start with Desert's Edge, and the animals currently on display there are the bat-eared fox, the black-footed cat, a caracal, I think I'm saying that right, some meerkats, and the naked mole rats. On the other side of the building, we have the clouded leopard rainforest, and of course it includes the clouded leopard, the African giant centipede, the binturong, I'm not sure how you actually say that one either, the fishing cat, and the Prevost squirrel. Okay, let's take a look at one last thing before we close out this episode, and that's what are the plans for the future, or what could the plans for the future be for an area like this with big cats. Now, I went out there and I found a project plan for the future for Brookfield Zoo. I don't know if it's official. I'm not 100% positive. And you know, some of the changes they're making to the zoo currently already have made. Were in accordance to this plan, but not followed exactly. So obviously, you know, this wouldn't give you an exact representation, but it does give you a great idea of how zoo planners are thinking about the experiences for both the guests and for the animals as zoos progress in the future. So first of all, on the satellite view, again, I just want to point out that this is the current, what I'm calling lion house. And what this is showing is the original lion house, like I showed earlier, and the Fragile Kingdom area. Now, just to point out a little bit around what supports this area is there's main guests paths, that's hard to say, that feed into this area. And to get into the Fragile Kingdom, there's an entrance path here, and I know it's hard to see back under the trees, but there's another one that goes back this way. Then, just as a reminder, the animal enclosures are right here, or the outside animal enclosures are right here, and there's 4 of them currently. And the snow leopard one is kind of hidden back in the trees here. Now, keep in mind, as I kind of go between the current plan and the future plan, you could see some of the differences. The building is still there. The pathing changes quite a bit, and more importantly, there's a lot of new animals added to this area. So one of the things I want to show on the future map that has changed are the back entrance here is gone, so there's now a single entrance into the Fragile Kingdom. And I didn't find anything in writing about this, but I have a theory around it. And that theory is, you see this is now called the Siberian Escape. So what that means is that they are now structuring this entire area to be more Asian themed and Asian animals. One other thing you'll notice is there were 4 enclosures, and I said they have a lion, a tiger, a leopard, and a snow leopard. Well, the lion is mysteriously missing from this area. And you'll see later when we talk about the Africa section of this park that the future plan has the lion moving over into that area with its own exhibit. So what was able to be resolved from this is the three existing environments for the larger cats have really changed a lot in size. So again, going back, you could see how small the enclosures are, and now they are very, very large, at least double, in some cases maybe triple or close to triple the size as what the cats have now. The other thing I want to point out is these arrows that you see. Again, I haven't seen any written description of this, but my assumption is that these arrows are showing that the animals could share the different enclosures, not at the same time, but at different times. And you'll see later on in one of the other areas of the park why I believe it's at different times. But what I think this is saying is that, the tiger and leopard can interchange, so that even doubles the large areas that they're setting up. So, a tiger might get bored with the same environment over time, but if you switch them up every month or every week or whatever it is to the different environments, they now are less bored and have different areas or different, scenic places to explore. Now, I also, notice the snow leopard over here does not have one of those arrows. And my reasoning behind that is currently the snow leopard enclosure has like a fine mesh netting that covers really high up, and I believe it actually covers the enclosure totally. And the reason for that is that the snow leopards, I believe, have a lot higher of a leaping capability or jumping capability than, say, the leopard or the tiger. So the leopard and tiger could be kept in their enclosures with a moat type setup, but the snow leopard cannot. So they would be restricted still to their own enclosure with a different fencing type setup for them. But the good thing is that it's more than double what the current snow leopard enclosure has. Now, let's talk about pathing a little bit. Like I said, there's one entrance here, but you can see the pathing has two entrances to this area, right here and right here. It says that there's an entrance, and that's kind of just to get into the themed area. But there is now a holding and viewing building where there probably will be, I'm guessing, a glass viewing area for the leopard that will be up close. It also gives you some viewing areas for the more hooved animals back on this side, which we'll talk about in a second. But more importantly is it gives the opportunity to have this other path that goes deeper into the enclosure, so you could see the animals from even more angles and more views, which is really, really cool in my opinion, because right now it's just set up along the front edge of the three enclosures, which is how most zoos, I believe, are set up. The other thing I want to point out here is that that they've cut into this area of the park. Going back again to the current satellite view, this is all just, there's some paths that are in here, but it also is mostly just a wooded or a walkway area that's being underutilized. So in the new version of this area, there's, it says a taken, not sure what that animal is. There's a camel, and there is a reindeer exhibit. And once again, arrows showing that they can share these environments. Now, I don't believe they'll all be sharing them at the same time, because you can see here and here there's some definitive breaks in these enclosures. But like the tiger and the leopard up here, I think that they would rotate the different animals into the different enclosures so that they have 3 times the capability of being in different areas at different times of their residence at the zoo. So I really, really do like this setup. And I hope that a lot of the zoos that people create in the game will have more of an interactive, open, realistic type feel like what this is showing here. Let me just talk a little bit more about guest experience in this area. So again, going back to the current satellite view, this area over here is currently set up with some restaurants, and some more formal pathway and formal gardens. And back up in this area, again, just some back access to parking lots and stuff like that. But you could see in the future plan that these are all picnic areas and what look to be wooded picnic areas for guests. So again, utilizing that more formal lawn, concrete type structure that the zoo has now, with a more wooded picnic area, which I think is way better for guest experiences. You could bring your own lunch pails and have a family picnic in the zoo. It's just so cool, at least in my opinion. The other thing I want to point out is there's a sky ride in the plan. Now, whether they're ever going to do that or not, I don't know. But that sky ride, the interesting part about it to me, if you look, it actually passes over the leopard and tiger enclosure. So that is so cool. I'm assuming it would have to be a closed type car on that sky ride. You don't want people dropping stuff in the animal exhibits. But again, it's just kind of cool that it actually goes over them so you could see the animals again from a different perspective. One other thing that you could see here, it says train station. The zoo used to have a train. We'll talk about that in a later episode, but it looks like they're talking about adding the train back into the zoo. Once again, we all know that there is a train of sorts in Planet Zoo. So, this is kind of the wave of the future of the zoo, is that there are some transport viewing type rides that are showing up more and more in zoos once again. So I hope you learned something about zoo design and zoo advancement, meaning, how you go from a concrete steel cage structure from back in the 30s to a more a more animal and guest improvement, in the 80s, 90s, and current day, and in the future, how there's plans to even make it a better experience for both the animals and